Okay, welcome everybody. My name is Marty Mascari. I am a contractor under the North Central Texas Area Agency on Aging and the North Central Texas Aging and Disability Resource Center, or ADRC, both of which are under the umbrella of the North Central Texas Council of Governments in the greater Dallas-Fort Worth, Texas area, which is our primary service area. But we are blessed here to have our partners at Heyman, I'm at Heyman, James, at James L. West Center, which is in Tarrant County, Fort Worth, Texas, to talk to us for about part 3 of our Healthy Brain series, Socialization and Cognitive Fitness. But before we get started, we're going to talk about CEUs. If we can move forward one, but I do want to mention a couple of things before we do that. First of all, we used to just have you guys put questions and answers. I'm sorry, your questions anywhere. We do ask now if you put those in the Q&A. I finally got smart enough to understand why the people put Q&A and chat differently, is because when it comes time to answering questions, it takes a long time to filter through all of the chat to make sure we don't miss any questions. So please put your questions in the Q&A, and you can put any comments you have in the chat. But if you're wanting an answer, please put your questions in the Q&A. Do you want to start by talking about your CEUs, and then I'll finish up with the Google?
Perfect. So we are happy to offer 1.5 credits, CE credits, for social work, nursing, licensed professional counselors, and a certificate of attendance. These are the social work, nursing, and counselors are specific to the state of Texas, but at the either end of today or tomorrow, Marty will send out a follow-up email. And in that email, there will be a link for a program evaluation, and it's a SurveyMonkey link. We really ask that everybody complete this evaluation because we really do appreciate and use your feedback for us to continue to grow our programs and make them better. But if you are wanting a CEU credit or a certificate of attendance, it's required that you complete that evaluation. We'll have it open for about a week. So the survey will close at the end of day on August the 22nd. And from that day forward, if you'll allow us about 4 weeks to process all those CE credits, and then we'll get you your certificate by email.
Very, very good. And I just want to make sure you deviate between there's a SurveyMonkey survey and a Google evaluation survey. The Google evaluation survey is our survey, and that helps us report back on the goals and objectives that I set forth when we applied for the funding to put these webinars on. So we both are doing this under different funding sources, and we both want to improve what we're doing for you all. So please, I ask that you do both of them. The Google survey should pop up as you close out of Zoom today. It should just ask you if you'd like to take a short survey, and that would take you to our Google survey. I will try to remember, and I do this sometimes and don't do it sometimes, to pop the SurveyMonkey link into the chat right before we get done, so that you guys will have access to that. The follow-up email will go out tomorrow and not today. I have some deadlines that I've got to meet today on some other things, but we'll get the follow-up email out to you tomorrow. But that follow-up email will have both survey links in it, just in case you're not able to access it or we don't get the SurveyMonkey one in the chat today. You will get both of those in a follow-up email tomorrow, along with links to flyers for future webinars we have coming up. So I'm going to turn it over to Jamie and let her educate us.
Thanks, Marty.
Thanks,
and this
Jamie.
is, we are at the end of our 3-part series that we've been doing on healthy brain aging. And over the past 3 months, over this summer, each month, we've talked about the influencers of brain health. And hopefully you were able to see parts 1 and 2. If not, I know that you can have access to those through the North Texas Area Agency on Aging YouTube channel, which is also going to be a part of Marty's follow-up email. But this month, we're going to really focus on brain fitness and socialization as influencers of brain health. The last couple of months, we really dived deep into diet and exercise. We dive deep into stress and sleep and how important they are. Excuse me, my phone is on. I apologize about that. But we dive deep into how these areas of our life really do impact our brain health and how can we make positive choices to help us age with a healthy brain. And as we do that, we're also dramatically reducing our risk for dementia. So if you have not seen the parts 1 and 2, I encourage you to search that YouTube channel. Again, you'll have a link to those videos so you can really learn about how they improve health, the benefits of them for our brain health, and just easy, everyday, practical ways we can start to implement positive changes so we are able to age with our brain, a healthy brain. But again, this week, this next hour and a half, we're really going to dive deep into social connections and brain fitness. So we are going to talk about, for both of those two aspects or topics, we're going to talk about, we'll look at some of the research behind it, but we'll talk about the benefits to brain health and how do we incorporate that into our lives. And you can see here, socialization, social connections, being social, staying connected, all of that stuff. There is so much research behind why socialization is beneficial to our brain health that I'm going to be sharing a lot of research with you. But it's kind of a newish compared to like diet and exercise, how important it is to our brain health. But if you think about it, we as human beings, we're social creatures. We were born into social groups. We've lived in a society our entire lives. So we can't really, that social part of us can't be easily removed necessarily, but we are social beings. And human beings search for comfort, support, and familiarity. We know that these studies that, a lot of studies we'll go over show that people that have strong social ties, social connections, not only have positive benefits on brain health, but there's benefits on their overall well-being, physical health, and emotional health. And these studies show, study after study has shown the more connected we are socially, the better we are on cognitive performance. So, we know the social ties have benefits on our memory, and we're going to talk about how this all works and why that is, but it has benefits on just our overall cognitions, our overall health, better judgment. But really being social connects us to a lot of different people, a lot of different perspectives. It opens us up to new opportunities. We get to see things from other people's points of view. We're exposed to new things, new ideas, new events or experiences. And all of that exposure really is beneficial to our brain, and it provides not only just for cognition and memory, but it helps reduce anxiety, it helps reduce stress, it helps us stay brain fit as well. So there's just an abundance of research on how important socialization is. Having friends, staying connected, keeps us mentally active. It helps us ward off stress, which helps can lower our anxiety, help ward off depression, and help ward off loneliness and feelings of isolation. And one study in particular is a study by Dr. Yarba and his colleagues. This was a study that was done in 2008. And what they did is they collected data from 3,600 people. And the age range was from 25 to 96. So a large age range and a large group of people. And they assessed how often these people talked on the phone, visited with neighbors, got together with friends or relatives, went to parties, did social things. But they also assessed their mental functioning. And they used just a cognitive exam, the mini mental state exam, which is a pretty basic cognitive exam. So they did this for all of these people, these 3,600 people. And then they ruled out, like they controlled for physical health or other daily activity levels. Okay, so they found that the people that were more socially engaged in this large group fared higher on their cognitive performance. So this is great news, right? So the more connected we are, the more healthy we can be, right? Our neurons at least can be healthy. But they showed this. This is one of the first studies that showed social interaction directly caused better cognitive functioning. So that was an important test. And the studies and other tests that they've been doing since are really proving the same thing over and over again, that social interaction can directly cause better cognition. And that's important. And again, that is absolutely great news. Some other studies here that just showing the benefits of it, that people who have are socially active lives, and this is particular seniors or older adults, 65 plus, they have higher late life satisfaction. So they're just more happy in life as well. So not only are they getting better cognitive benefits, they just overall are more satisfied with life. But then physically, it also has benefits physically. People who stay socially active or have been associated with a stronger immune system. So they're better able to ward off the flu, colds, even some types of cancer, or if they are to get those, that's not as severe or their length of that illness or sickness isn't as long. And then emotionally. So the emotional benefits of this is not only we have late life satisfaction, but we have improved mood. Again, like I said, if we stay more socially active, we're staying more mentally active, but it helps ward off stress, depression, isolation, feelings of loneliness, of course. So the social interaction, these social connections help cognitively, but they help physically and emotionally as well. So how does this work? So why is it that social connections really help benefit with our brain cognition? And a lot of this information comes from Dr. Susan Pinker, but she says that direct person-to-person, so face-to-face contact triggers a release of this cocktail of neurotransmitters that are tasked with regulating our response to stress and anxiety. So what they're seeing happening is that when we're socially connected, we're having positive connections, that our brains will release the hormone oxytocin into our system. And oxytocin is been deemed or coined the care and connect hormone. And it is associated with increased levels of trust with human beings. It's associated with increased levels of relaxation and decreased levels of stress. So just saying socially connected face to face, we have this release of this care and connect hormone into our bloodstream. It's also releasing dopamine into our bloodstream, and dopamine is that feel-good hormone, and it's also a natural pain reliever. And then it decreases the hormone cortisol, which is the stress hormone. So it lowers stress. So we're increasing care and connect hormone, oxytocin, we're increasing dopamine, but we're not increasing the cortisol. We're actually decreasing the stress hormone into our blood system. So there are physiological changes happening when we are staying socially connected in positive ways. This, that second paragraph, or the last paragraph on that screen there, it talks about, there was a corroborating study from the National Human Genome Research Institute. And it showed that people undergoing chemotherapy for cancer typically did better or fared better if they had a stronger social connection or stronger support system. And this is they're interacting with, it could be friends, it could be families, it could be peers going through the same similar experiences. But not only were they fared better just with the reactions of the chemotherapy, but they fared better mentally and physically. And if I remember correctly, the study was done on individuals that came in and did chemotherapy together. I know you can receive chemotherapy in a variety of ways, but if you go and get, excuse me, the infusions and you go and there's several people in the room getting the same treatment at the same time, those individuals, because they're social and they're part of that support system, fared better in that way. But also if you just have that strong social connection, you're going to fare better. And that is just a corroborating study on how actually all this works. And, you know, this face-to-face contact like it's like Dr. Pinker states, releases this cocktail of neurotransmitters, and it kind of acts like a vaccine is supposed to act, to where it protects you now, right now in the present, but it protects you into the future as well. So simply, by shaking somebody's hand, giving a hug, high-fiving somebody, releases these good hormones, the oxytocin, the dopamine, decreases the cortisol, and helps us fare better all together. So why wouldn't we want to do this, right? And so this study determined that it just takes 10 minutes of a social connection for us to increase performance. We get all these benefits. We're increased our cognition. And what happens is when we stay social, and if you think about it, when I'm having a social connection or I'm staying socially active, I'm having to use a lot of my brain. This is different from me being at home watching TV or sitting on the couch with my spouse or whatever it is. I'm having to, in this social setting, I'm having to think and respond quickly to what's going on around me, the questions that people ask me, or what I'm going to say next, or what story I'm going to potentially tell. We have to take in all of the information. We have to hear it, right? Our brain has to hear it. It has to assign it value. We have to decode it. We have to interpret it. We have to give an appropriate response. We have to assign meaning to the information, but we're doing this with the words, and we also have to take it into and compare it with the broader context of what's going on also, right? But we also have to interpret the environment that's going on around us. Or are we looking at just the verbal communication that our brain's having to do all of this complex processing of, but also the nonverbal communication? Am I picking up on facial expressions and tone of voice? What about voice inflection? And we're also engaging our working memory. And our working memory is this memory that I need right now to be able to navigate to the next move. It's in our working memory, we can hold about 5 to 7 things, but I need it right now because it's immediate. I got to have it right now to do the next thing or make the next decision or say the next sentence I'm going to say. But it helps us navigate our conversations. We have to keep it in context. We have to respond appropriately, right? But we also are inhibiting our impulses or our emotional control as well. And all of this stuff is controlled by our brain. So our brain is lighting up immensely in all of these different areas. So the processing of the language, the hearing of it, the interpreting, the nonverbal communication, seeing the tone of voice and the body language, me being able to respond appropriately and control impulses, all of that stuff is in different areas of our brain. All that's housed in different areas of our brain. So the majority of our brains lighting up and firing when we're staying socially connected. So that is the benefits of staying socially connected. We're having to use our brain when we do it. So it engages all areas of our brain, or most areas of our brain. It lowers stress. And this side note here on this, the stress triggers inflammatory chemicals that can contribute to cardiovascular disease and Alzheimer's disease. And I put that in there because we may not fully understand the true benefits or the far-reaching benefits of all of these brain influencers that we've talked about over the summer. But staying social, just how far-reaching the benefits of this are. Because if I'm able to lower my stress hormone and increase the oxytocin, the care and connect, well, if I can do that, it might also lower the inflammation in my body or an inflammatory response, which helps, again, continue to decrease my risk for dementia, but just help me age optimally. And then the other thing about friends, good friends, we do have to be aware about the company we keep, right? Most of the time, our friends encourage us to stay connected. They encourage us to eat better. They encourage us to get up and go out and exercise. And then we have people to call to and lean on when things happen in life, because things happen. So we have this support system and we feel connected and we have that purpose. So I mentioned a little bit earlier about how some of the benefits is it can help with feelings of loneliness. So people who tend to live longer or have more social support, we mentioned earlier, do tend to live longer and have higher late life satisfaction. But they did this study, it's the Internal Journal of Geriatric Psychiatry. They studied loneliness and cognitive function in people that are 65 plus, and they studied them for a period of 12 years. And those people that reported having feelings of loneliness had faster cognitive decline than those that did not report feelings of loneliness. So loneliness is a true illness. If you ask me, it's a true problem, and it is a lot more prevalent than we think it is. And loneliness, according to the study of in medicine, that it's just as bad as smoking 15 cigarettes a day, being obese, or never exercising. So these feelings of loneliness and isolation are truly detrimental to our health, physical, mental, emotional. But what if we can help alleviate some of these feelings of loneliness through staying socially connected? And then people who are socially connected, you're really exercising those cognitive skills. We went through, well, how does this actually work? How can I exercise all of those skills? The memory, the language, the impulse control, all of those things. We got to continue to exercise those, but it also helps develop cognitive reserve. And while it may not stop our brains from changing, because there are normal changes that come as we get older, and then if we develop dementia, our loved ones do, we may not stop those changes. But if we have enough in our cognitive reserve, we can better cope with the changes that may affect us. And let's think about cognitive reserve for a second. Cognitive reserve is like a bank. And each thing that I do, I'm depositing little coins into my cognitive reserve bank every day. And sometimes I take stuff out of my cognitive reserve bank. So it's with our diet, our exercise, our managing our sleep, managing our stress, staying socially connected, working out our brain, cognitive fitness. That is putting in coins, positive coins, into our cognitive reserve. And the more I put in, the more my cognitive reserve bank has, to one day when I might need to I'm going to need to use that stuff from my cognitive reserve bank because I'm going to need it for whatever reason. But the more I have to pull from, right, the more wealth there is in my cognitive reserve, the better off I am because I have a lot more to pull from. Just like money in the bank, just like dollar bills in the bank. The more I have in the bank, the more I can pull from, and generally the better off I am financially. It's the same with this cognitive reserve. Now we want to make sure we're putting into our cognitive reserve, and we do that every day. And we do it with all these influencers of health we've been talking about over the course of the summer. But we can also take away from our cognitive bank if we do negative things for our cognitive health. So let's say I decided I'm not going to stick to a brain healthy diet, and I'm going to start eating sweets and fried foods, and I'm going to quit exercising. Well, that's taken away from that cognitive reserve bank because it takes away from it. And then I'm not putting anything in there. So when I really do need this wealth from my cognitive reserve bank, it may not be there, or there's just a little bit there that I'm going to use it up so quickly. So let's think about, I really want to fill my cognitive reserve bank as much as I can. And these things we've been talking about, just it's everyday practical little easy things that we do that we're putting in these little coins into this bank so we can build it up over time. Because there will come a time through, where we get ill or we just get older, the effects of aging, that we're going to need to pull from that bank. So spending more time with friends is also good for our mental well-being. It correlates with being physically active, both of which reduce our risk for developing dementia. So not only are we aging well, but we're dramatically reducing our risk for dementia. So social and spiritual well-being, this is, you can think about socialization, also as spiritual well-being, having some spiritual well-being as well. And individuals that have a sense of a higher purpose, or they look towards a higher purpose, or they have their own sense of higher purpose, they tend to fare better as well, because we generally tend to get into communities with the same like-mindedness stuff. So there's some intellectual engagement in there, but you just have this social support. And again, the sense of community, sense of belonging that we feel. And generally, most of the time, these groups or these support systems that we have a positive outlook. We have changed perspectives on things. And it helps establish peace and harmony in our lives. So we have a better outlook on our lives, and we can better align our choices and our ideas with our values, and which will also, our actions will align with our values as well. So let's watch this quick video. It's about 5 minutes, but this gentleman talks about social connections and why they matter to our health. And it is, it's the type of connection that we have, which I've alluded to, but it's this type of connection because, like I said, it's the company we keep. So it's positive connections. So let's listen to what he has to say.
What if I told you there was a drug that could reduce your risk of early mortality by almost 50%? What if this same drug helped breast cancer patients survive almost twice as long as a control group without it? And this same drug could reduce stress, anxiety, and depression among children and adults with no side effects? What if I told you this drug was genuine social connection? Now, granted, you can't take this in pill form, but the health impacts here are staggering. The human body is wired for connection, mentally, physically, and emotionally. Further, who you are connected to and the ideas and behaviors you're exposed to play an extremely important role in your life and your health. In network science, we use the term diffusion to represent how an idea or behavior is spread from person to person through social interactions and social connection. Tonight, I would like to guide you through a reflection of your own social connections and how they might impact your health, and hopefully diffuse a little good health along the way. For this purpose, I've laid out 3 forms of social connection: close connection, common clusters, and coincidental contacts. While connection can mean so many things, I'd like to start off with a definition of connection from one of my favorite researchers, Brene Brown. As a social worker and social scientist who studies emotion and vulnerability, Dr. Brown defines connection as the energy between people when they feel seen, heard, and valued, when they can give and receive without judgment, and when they derive sustenance and strength from the relationship. Now I'd like you to picture people in your life that fit that definition of close connection. These could be close friends, maybe family members. Most of you will have less than 5 people that fit this definition of close connection, but these people are the foundation of your social support network. Chances are all these people will know one another, as close friends and family members tend to interact, creating a dense web of interlocking connections and a stabilizing presence in your life. This stability can be a lifelong source of safety and support. However, it also means that the ideas and behaviors of this close-knit group can be hard to change, which grounds us in value systems and behavioral habits. Think about it. We tend to walk, talk, eat, play, think, even laugh like the people that occupy these closest social support roles. Building out from there, think about the groups in which you belong or the people you see on a consistent basis. These could be coworkers, classmates, people at church, or other groups you belong to. While you may have several of these common clusters, research tells us that they may not overlap, and they may only be privy to part of your life. Because of this distance, it's more likely that new ideas or behaviors will come from these groups as opposed to your core support network. Research also tells us that we may be more willing to confide in individuals in these groups during difficult or stressful situations, as they may not have access to others in our social circle, hence reducing the risk of judgment from those closest to us. Lastly, think about the otherwise random people you might bump into or encounter throughout the day. I've labeled these as coincidental contacts. These could be people in your neighborhood, a barista, or a cashier. While you may not know much about them, I'd like you to think of the nature of these interactions. Are they positive, negative, or otherwise neutral? Having more positive interactions in this way can significantly improve your mood, reduce stress hormones, and reduce your blood pressure over time. In fact, recent research on brain disorders like Alzheimer's and dementia indicate that it's these varied interactions in combination with a strong social support network that keep the brain functioning well. Now, before I close, I'd like to give you a bit of homework for each of these circles. Within coincidental contacts, remember that with a smile, eye contact, and a few positive words, you can improve your mood and health as well as theirs. Within common clusters, try to see connections between groups. Identify individuals that might benefit from knowing one another and make the introduction. Lastly, think back to the people that you listed as your close connections, the people that mean the most in your life. I'd like you to reach out to those people. Tell them what they mean to you and express gratitude and appreciation for their presence in your life. Expressing gratitude can not only strengthen your connection, but it can have significant health benefits for the both of you. By spreading just a bit of appreciation and positivity, you can diffuse good health to those around you. Thank you for your time.
I thought that was such a good video because we are talking about connections, and then I want to talk about, well, how do we become more connected if we're not already? And looking at being social, because we've talked mostly about in-person, face-to-face connections, but we also have this virtual world that we're taking part of right now, right? And how do we use that wisely? Because in the video, he talked about our close connections, our common clusters, and our coincidental contacts. And looking at it, I asked you to look at each one of those groups in your lives and evaluating them. Do you have positive close connections, common clusters, and coincidental contacts? And how are they feeding you in positive ways? But then also, how can you feed them in positive ways through your interactions, through your perspectives, and all of that stuff? But looking at being social in a virtual world, because that is part of our world right now, and it always will be, I believe. But there are pros and cons. So it is using social media, emails, texting, you name it. It is so easy to reconnect with old friends. It's easy to stay connected with friends and family. I love parts of it because, like on Facebook, I would see pictures of family, that were just posted on Facebook that I might not otherwise would have ever seen. Or I can stay connected and enjoy that part of my friends and family. We can share common interests. So you can meet people that have like-minded interests, common hobbies, common activities on different sites, different apps. We are exposed to new opportunities, new ideas, new learning challenges. We can connect like we are right now, live, so we have screen face-to-face time with people if you cannot be in person. And there are a lot of positive things that can come from the online or the virtual world. It is targeted to help reward our brain systems. So, I use Facebook as the example because you can like stuff on Facebook. And some studies have shown, particularly in teenagers, but I think for everybody, when you get a like on a post or a comment you made, it sends reward. I mean, it's kind of like eating a piece of chocolate for our brain. It's a reward system to that. So there are some positive things for it. But we also want to be clear on some cons. And some of you might already be aware of the cons, but some research shows that the more time people spend on social media sites, this is in particular, like Facebook or Instagram or TikTok or Twitter, the more unsatisfied they are with their lives. And for several reasons why that is, it could be that they're turning to social media for validation, to help counteract feelings of sadness or grief that they may go through, when that's not really a healthy way for emotional hygiene. But they also are looking at their friends and their families and all the stuff that's going on, and they don't have that in their lives. So they're comparing, right? And comparison's generally never good. Again, we have to practice good emotional hygiene. And also we have to think about when we're looking at social media, we have to be very what's the word, discerning on what's on social media, because it's not all the truth that's out there. Okay, whether it's from a friend or it's from a political ad. We're in election season here in America. We have to be very discerning on the news that we take in, whether it's friends and family news or just the news around us, right? So as we're living in this virtual world, there are a lot of pros and it's beneficial. I've gotten a lot of great recipes from online. I've learned some really great life hacks. So it's important to think about, like, in your virtual world feed, what is in your feed? What are you putting in there? Who are you liking? Who are you following? So we have to be very responsible, right, with our connections in the in the virtual social world. So we have to watch, what are we feeding ourselves? What are we watching? What are we reading? What are we filling up our virtual world with? Because that's going to be up to us, and just being responsible about that. And we also want to ask ourselves, how much time are we spending on it? Because we don't want to spend too much time in the virtual world and forget about, or dismiss, or not spend enough time in the real world. And also know that in the social world, we are being targeted. So that, because people are wanting you to buy this, sign this, petition that, buy this. So being aware, again, it's just the responsibility of being in a digital virtual world. And the benefits, the socialization benefits, so all these benefits that we've talked about, while there are advantages in the virtual world, the pros, all the research done is that in order to stay socially fit and cognitively fit, that we must have the time for those in-person interactions. It's that face-to-face connection that is what's increasing the oxytocin, increasing the dopamine, decreasing the stress. It's that face-to-face stuff, or where we do the handshake or the side hug, or we're sitting next to people. It is face-to-face connection, but it's also touch connection as well, where we have skin-to-skin contact with somebody else, and you get to see the nuances of their body language. And we get to really read and kind of crack jokes more so than we do in a virtual world, and connect a little bit differently. The quality of the interaction is different. Even if we are doing a live, like Zoom call or Teams meeting or whatever it is, it's better, but there is some lacking when you're doing, as opposed to when you're doing an in-person, face-to-face interaction. And it's harder. We can't cover as much territory. Sometimes you talk over each other and stuff gets missed. And so sometimes you might not feel as heard. There's a lot more nuances to it. So as we're thinking about how am I going to be more social, keep that in mind. So how can we become more social? And this is in the in-person world, but also the virtual world, because there's plenty of opportunities. And the video mentioned some of them, right? But a few I want to point out is strike up a conversation in the grocery store, or with the neighbors. If you're walking through, let's say you are taking a walk, make a point to stay hi and make just a quick comment to the person that you're walking next to or walking past. Stop and say hello, or if there's a new neighbor, somebody you haven't met yet, make a point to stop and meet them. You don't have to stop down and it'd be an hour-long visit. It's just that's a nice thing. So it's, again, what are we feeding out there in the world, that positive social connection? Can we babysit grandkids or neighbors' kids? And joining a class or a group. So there are a lot of opportunities for classes, groups. It can be in your community center. It can be at the local libraries. It can be at the rec center. There are online groups to join, like book clubs, for instance. There's online book clubs, but there's also a lot of in-person book clubs that you can connect with. I put up there local universities offering adult education. I know here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, a lot of our universities offer adult education at a very low cost. So our community college, Tarrant County Community College, Texas Christian University, I know for a fact both offer adult education for a minimal cost. And so you get access to a plethora of courses that you get to take. And it's not like chemistry courses. It's stuff you want to know, like history, or pickleball was one of them. I was looking at a course catalog, or movie making, or a travel club. I mean, there's a variety of different programs, because generally it's your peers that are teaching those classes. So it's a great way. So look into those local universities in your area and getting connecting that way. Because not only are you staying social, you're getting some cognitive fitness as well. And then, of course, I always say volunteer. The world needs more volunteers. Organizations need more volunteers, and it's a great way to stay social and give back. So help with that spiritual well-being also. And then just making more time for social connections. When was the last time you had coffee with a friend? Or you even called? You haven't talked to that friend so long? Well, then call them. Call them up. I know a lady who, it had been during COVID, but she's continued it, that she got through at her church congregation. She went through and she called a new family in the congregation every week. And so she's just continued that. So for COVID, it was just staying connected because the world was upside down. But she's continued that and just staying connected, and it helps her, but it helps other people feel so warm and welcome. And who wouldn't like a call just to say a friendly hello? And then, of course, taking part in activities you've never done, something that you've always been interested in. Well, now's the chance to go take advantage of it. So in the latest research, so this is from the Journal of Gerontology, but socialization benefits older adults, of course, in warding off the risk of dementia, but it also helps with physical activity and can prevent diabetes and heart disease. So not only is it helping with our brain health, but it helps with our overall physical health too. In the study that they did, participants who scored the highest in cognitive improvement were the ones playing the board games. They went to movies, they traveled, they attended classes and lectures, they did activities, they got together, they volunteered, or they were married, or they lived around others. So just another study to show evidence of how important socialization is, even if it's done in moderate doses. So for those of you introverts or people that aren't used to socialization or don't like it, doesn't have to be a big party every day, but it is staying connected and staying responsibly connected and with those positive people in your life. Okay, so now what I want you to do, we're going to switch focus. We've talked about socialization. I hope you understand the benefits of it and you've gotten some good ideas on how to stay social or become more social. So now we're going to flip to cognitive fitness. And I hope you see a correlation between staying socially active automatically benefits us cognitively because all the stuff our brain's having to do, but it also encourages us to stay cognitively fit. Then I want us to do a quick 2-minute challenge. So grab a scratch piece of paper or something to write with if you have something in front of you, or you can just do it in your head. You can do it in chat, but don't enter in chat yet because I don't want other people to cheat. So what we're going to do is I'm going to do a 2-minute challenge, and you're going to write a word that pertains to summer, or something that you see or that you do in summer that starts with each letter of the alphabet. And I got you started with the first three letters. So something about summer that starts with A. Well, apple pie. Something about summer that starts with a B. Well, the beach. Something about summer that starts with a C. I think cotton candy. So I'm going to count down. I'm going to give you 2 minutes, and I want you to write it down. And something about something for each. Keep going down through the alphabet and write something down. Okay. So let me get my timer. Give you 2 minutes, and don't put it in chat yet, but go ahead. All right, so start now. Okay, time is up. 2 minutes is up. Set your pens down, quit writing. I'm going to get some answers from y'all. So what did you get? We won't go through the whole alphabet because of time, but you can chat it in. What did you get for the letter J as something that pertains to summer? The letter J. Joyful, Jello Pops, Joy, love it, Journey, Jump Rope, June, Juice Box, Junk Food, Jellyfish, love it, Jumpers. Okay, so what about the letter O? What'd you get for the letter O? Ocean. Octopus Outdoors, a lot of ocean. Oreo ice cream, I love the specifics. Organizing, oranges, being outside, yeah, perfect. Okay, what about the letter Q? What'd you get for the letter Q? Quality, quiet time. Yeah, I was stumped too. Quiet time, quality, that's good. Those are good ones. Quarters games. Quick. All right, what about the letter V? Whoops. Voices, vacation. Oh, vacation, yeah. Vacation. Perfect. Visits. And then vitamin D, I love it. Volleyball. All right, and then what about the last one I'll ask is the letter I. What'd you get for the letter I? Ice cream. Nice indoor activities, intense heat, insects. Wonderful. Perfect. Well, thank y'all for doing that. I hope you found that fun. And that is a great example of cognitive fitness. And the reason why it is because it's challenging you and there was a time limit on it. So there was a little bit of pressure, a little bit of competition in there. But cognitive fitness is the last brain influencer that we're going to talk about. And really, it comes down to the more we stimulate and challenge our brain, the more we are offsetting the effects of aging and reducing our risk for dementia. And we really, talk about aging with a healthy brain, but we really, I think at the end of the day, we really want to age and we want our brains to stay sharp, right? We want to be healthy, but I want to have a sharp brain. I want to have my memory. I want to be able to think fast on my feet. I want to be able to respond. I want to continue to learn and do all this stuff. And if we think about cognitive fitness, let's think about just like exercise, physical fitness. We got to have the same thoughts about it. Because if we think about exercise and physical fitness, it's something we have to work on regularly. It's not a one and done thing. And we have to work out the whole body. Okay, we're not just out there working on our calves. We got to work out on every muscle group. We got to work out the muscles. We got to work out the cardiovascular. So we're working out our heart muscle. We're working out our lung muscles. We're working out it all. And we're doing it regularly. And we're doing it through a variety of exercises. So it can be strength-based exercises. It can be cardiovascular exercises, but it can also be breath and movement exercises such as Tai Chi or yoga. And those are all very beneficial. And those are all part of a well-fit, physically fit exercise regimen. It's the same for brain fitness. We got to work out all areas of our brain and we got to do it regularly. It's not just a one and done, or it's not just a, well, you know what, I went through school, I went through all levels of school and I worked 20 years of my life, I'm good. I'm going to retire and I don't have to do it anymore. Unfortunately, that's not how it works. We've got to keep it up, just like we got to keep up our physical fitness. We got to keep up our brain fitness. In challenging our brain, it gives us more plasticity, meaning we have more flexibility. Our brain can be more pliable. It can adapt better to changes. It's more resilient to changes. And we are inputting more cognitive reserve into that cognitive bank, the more brain fitness that we do. So brain fitness, it results in quicker thinking, It improved memory, improves our word finding and our ability to complete a task, complete it well and complete it quicker. It's also shown to help with our mood, so it improves our mood and our self-confidence. And really it is, if you think about it, it's working out your mental muscles. So we work out our body muscles, but we also want to work out our mental muscles. So the brain is our muscle we got to work out. So it also improves our working memory. And I mentioned our working memory earlier, but the working memory is really crucial to all cognitive skills that we use every day. So it's working memory, or some people call it our operative memory, because it's that memory I have to operate with right now in the immediate. And it really helps us set or helps us process and store information, manipulate information, and helps us carry out more complex cognitive tasks like language, like comprehension of things, reading, reasoning, etc. So this working memory is part of our short-term memory, but it's what I need immediate right now. So it also helps improves our planning skills and our ability to carry out and reach our goals. So our planning skills is our ability to think about the future, whether I'm thinking about the future 5 hours from now or 5 weeks from now, and I've got to plan certain things out. So it helps us reach a specific goal, whether it's a deadline I got to meet at work, or it's I got to plan for this trip, or I got to sell the house, or whatever it is. It helps me plan that. And there's a lot to our planning skills that our brain fitness helps us keep those intact. So it helps us helps us with decision making. It helps us follow stuff in the right order that it needs to be done, and really establish a plan of action. So it also helps our processing speed. And our processing speed, really, it's the amount of time it takes us to understand something, to process something. How long does it take us to do that? So it's processing information and how long it takes us to understand something, but also how long does it take us to organize that information? And then what are we going to do with that information? And then the response time is how much time passes between something that we've heard or seen and how we respond to it. So this can even be, I've heard or seen the news. We just had a news story come out. Well, I've got to process it, but how much time has passed for me to have heard that, perceived that information, received that information, and then how am I supposed to respond to it? So it's really formulating a response. And then it improves our focused attention. So this is our ability to focus our attention on a task and really see it through. But it also helps us filter out anything that's distracting. So if we have a lot of environmental stimulation coming at us, this helps our brains focus on what it needs to get to our goal or finish that task. So this is the benefits of brain fitness. Hopefully I don't need to, you already know that there's benefits to brain fitness because it's important to work out our brain. But the keys of working out our brain is it has to be daily, and it's multiple times per day. So it's not just like with physical exercise. And I mentioned this when we dove deep into exercise. You can do your exercise for 30 or 45 minutes a day, but then you're sitting down the rest of the day, and maybe you're eating poorly. Well, that offsets the benefits of the physical exercise you did. So it's the same with this cognitive exercise. We got to stay cognitively fit throughout the day, because you might say, oh, I got up this morning and I did my crossword puzzle, and then the rest of the day I'm just going to sit and watch TV. Well, the negative benefits of that are going to offset the positive benefits of that one-time exercise. So it is daily, it's multiple times per day, is the best for our brain health. And really, it is about lifelong learning. So a lot of studies were done because they asked, well, is it people who have a higher level of education? Are they the ones that are less susceptible to developing dementia, or what is it? And really what the studies came down to is that it helps to have a higher level of education, but it's not determined, it's not required. Okay. What it came down to is that people had the best cognitive fitness, or that were had a dramatically reduced risk for developing dementia, were the individuals that continued to learn throughout the course of their lifetime. And learning could have been learning through each level of school, but it could also be learning throughout the course of your lifetime. So it is lifelong learning is what is the most important. And luckily, that's something we can fairly easily do. And the exercise we just did, that 2-minute exercise, that's cognitive fitness. That is engaging your brain every day. You don't have to go out and learn, a new math equation, but it's doing something that's challenging for your brain. It's putting those coins into that cognitive reserve bank. And it is best the earlier we start, because we build more of our cognitive reserve. We just had more time to build that reserve. But the benefits are immense starting at any age. Okay, so you will start to increase that cognitive reserve no matter what age you start at. The same with physical fitness. And there are 3 rules for brain fitness. The 3 rules are trying something new, have variety, and it needs to be challenging. Okay, so trying something new and novel. This is, you develop a new skill, you go out and learn how to operate a new piece of equipment, or you learn a new instrument, maybe you learn a new language. You're learning something new, so you are growing and strengthening your neurons and creating new neuronal connections by learning a new skill or a new task or whatever it is. But it's also something that generally takes us out of our comfort zone, which is also helpful, as we are out of our comfort zone, because I'm also having to navigate this new area that I may not be so comfortable with, just because I'm not familiar with it. So that also benefits the brain fitness and this trying something new. And then the creating variety, it's cross-training. Just like we cross-train our body, we have to cross-train our brain. And this comes down to working puzzles, crossword puzzles, Sudoku puzzles, word searches, you name it. It is a variety of exercises that we do. Because if I do word searches all the time, that's great. That's a good puzzle to do. But that word search is working out one specific area of my brain. Visual, spatial, being able to see something within a mix of stuff. And that muscle of my brain, that part of my brain is probably pretty strong, because I do that on a regular basis. And so that's a strong muscle I've built up. But what's not so strong is the more math organization side. So I would say Sudoku puzzles. Those are hard for me. They're much harder for me to do because they're more challenging. But that's the area of my brain that I need to work on, because that muscle's not as strong for many reasons. So I need to know, it's harder for me generally, because we're all human beings, right? Oh, that's too hard. I'm going to do this thing over here that's a little bit easier for me, all right? Well, continue to do what's easier for you and that you like doing, but also do these other puzzles or other activities that are a little bit more challenging for you, because we're working out those different muscles. And that's where that real brain fitness comes in. The real brain fitness comes in when we are challenging ourselves, trying something new. We're doing something that is too hard, or it seems too hard at the time, because the more we do it, the easier it's going to get. And then we're going to have to up the difficulty level of it. And that's where we want to challenge ourselves. So we want to make something progressively harder. And that can be, we're just upping up or stepping up to that next level of the puzzle. I'm not doing easy puzzles now. Now I'm doing moderate. Okay, and I just keep stepping up from there. Or you can time yourself as you're doing a puzzle. You can get into a friendly competition with your spouse or your kid or your grandkids or whatever it is. It's challenging yourself is that third rule for brain fitness. So it's learning something new, novel, something different for your brain. Cross-training, so create variety. We want to do activities that really maximize all areas of our brain. And then we want to progressively make it more challenging for ourselves. So those are the 3 rules to follow as we work through brain fitness. And we're doing it throughout the course of our lifetime. And I say this because some people might sit down and, they've retired and they think, oh, wow, I can slow down. I don't have to do as much anymore. Well, this is part of your life. Your lifelong learning also includes your retirement years. So we need to continue on with this lifelong learning throughout our entire life, right? So some other things we're going to talk about, some easy things that we can do that increase brain fitness that aren't as intense as going to learn a new language or starting a new puzzle group or something like that. But little things you can do, like using your non-dominant hand, whether it's to unload the dishwasher or it's to brush your teeth. Start off with easy tasks first, but use your non-dominant hand. Maybe it is texting or even typing with your non-dominant hand, because this is going to light up different areas of your brain. So you're working on those neurons and those muscles of your brains that we don't work on as much. So it's just working those out. Doing some reminiscence activities, and this can be, you can go on Amazon and buy reminiscence activities in different decades, and that way you can bring it home. This is a great way to have a socialization activity with your family or friends. But it's also able for us to reminisce, and we're having to access our long ago memories. And we're thinking about, oh yeah, what was the name of my 3rd grade teacher? We did this just recently because we have the kids going back to school, right? So we were in there, we're talking about, do you remember your 2nd grade teacher? And we're kind of having to think back. And so we're working those areas of our brain, those long ago memories, and having to pull them to the surface. Thinking about the jobs you've had in your past. What was your childhood address? All of these things that we can just start reminiscing, get out old photos, and share these experiences with your friends and family too, and allow them to share their experiences with you. Another thing you can do is read out loud if you're a reader. If we are reading out loud, we're having to work different areas or additional areas of our brain. So we're still reading, but we're working the vocal part of our brain. So it's just lighting up more areas of our brain to work out on. You can read from upside down. I'm not saying a whole novel, read upside down, or read from top to bottom, but maybe a short thing that you read. And so reading it backwards and then see if we can catch the plot of it or the gist of it can be very helpful. Very brain fit as well. Mess up your mouse. So as you're clicking on your mouse, maybe you change the always click to the other side. So we're having to work our brain from there. And then study recent calls. So if you can think back and go through your phone log, who have you recently talked to? So you can go back through that phone, your recent phone calls, and say, well, what did y'all talk about? What was the point of that call? And then keep going back in your phone log to see, well, what did we talk about in that conversation, and see how far back it goes. So it's helping, we're having to work that memories, those memory parts of our brain. So just some ideas and suggestions. Some other ones are turn off the TV. And this one I should have had at the very beginning, but TV viewings, there are some studies that have shown that if we have 3 to 4 hours of TV viewing a day, that it increases, or there's poorer health outcomes, and it increases early death. And a lot of reasons for that is it's not necessarily engaging. I mean, it depends on what you're watching. If you're watching a documentary and learning something new, that's one thing. But when we're watching TV, it really does promote more sedentary lifestyle and some of the consequences that come along with that. So TV is not bad, but just excessively long hours of TV on an everyday basis can be detrimental. Take a new route to the grocery store, to work, wherever it is. So a new route is something new and novel for your brain. So your brain's having to see something different. We're having to pay attention and focus a little bit more. So we're using those areas of the brain. Eat with chopsticks if you're not used to that. Meditate. Meditation has been shown. And we talked about meditation when we talked about stress and the importance of meditation, but that can help with brain fitness too. It takes a lot of attention and focus to meditate. Read something different. And this is, let's say you're used to reading fiction and you really like that. Well, open up your reading materials to something new. So it might be go read a historical novel or a Western or something like that, just to read something different, and you might like it and you just get different perspectives. Become a storyteller. So stories really help us solidify memories. They help us interpret events, help us share moments. So if we can really develop our storytelling skills, it takes practice. So it takes practice, and maybe you have to learn what is the basis in storytelling, but it's something that you can do, and it also helps with socialization. So you can share these stories and see how more compelling your stories can be when you're with your friends and family. And then testing your vocabulary. So, using that 2-minute mark like we just did, how many words can you write down that start with a particular letter of the alphabet? Or how many words can you write down that pertain to a certain group? So it might be like, for 2 minutes, I'm going to write down all the animals I can think of, or all the grocery items I can think of, or all the tools I can think of, or cars. So it's, challenge yourself that way. So it's these things that can be really fun, even get into a competition with friends or family to really work on your brain health, your brain fitness. And then games, and I've talked about games as well and the importance of a variety of games. And I've no bridge. Bridge was pointed out a lot in brain fitness because it is a favorite. You have to use memory, you have to use visualization, there's sequencing, and there's socialization too. And I think you can win prizes, so even better. Travel, of course, there's many rewards from travel. There's new experiences, there's the new novel stuff, there's the planning of it. You got to be flexible. You're sometimes out of your comfort zone. You're meeting new people. And it doesn't have to be travel to a whole new country or city, but it can be travel of just the city next door, or it can just be to a new neighborhood or whatever it may be. And then cultural experiences. Can you up your cultural experiences to going to different plays, films, museums, zoos, anything that might enrich you intellectually and be stimulating when you're learning something new at the same time. And then music. So music immediately improves mood. It can improve our energy level. It can also be a stress reduction, and it can also induce relaxation. So this is whether I'm using music and listening to music, or if I'm learning music. So even if you're not interested in learning to play a new instrument, can you learn more about that type of music? So whether it's classical music or Baroque or rock and roll, whatever it is, maybe you can go learn a little bit about the history of that music and how it came to be, and different things like that. And then puzzles, we've talked about that. Puzzles, variety really is the key. Variety and challenge is the key. But we do, I frequently get asked, there's some more research on just the benefits of brain fitness. So this study, the Neuropsychological Society, reported that regularly working crossword puzzles slowed the onset of memory decline by as much as 2.5 years. And then they did a study on taxi drivers. And taxi drivers, I believe they studied them in New York, but they have a greater gray matter volume in the hippocampus because of all the spatial navigation they have to do, and having to kind of think on their feet and figure out different routes, because if there was a traffic jam on this road, well, they got to be able to think, well, how can I reroute and where am I going to go, and do it quickly. But that study really showed that in adulthood, the brain can rewire itself to new challenges. So we know, obviously, as children, with our brains developing, we can do that. But even in adulthood, as we're learning all these new things, we can rewire our brain depending on the new challenge. So, but with games and puzzles, it did ask about computer games, because there was some studies about that. Is, well, can I do, because there's a lot of apps or subscriptions you can get to, like cognitive fitness games, and increase, that you purchase, generally most of them, this app to play all these memory games, and you improve as you go. And they are, so the studies are mixed. I would say if it's challenging for you and you enjoy it, then do it. But some study shows that there was a decreased risk of dementia in correlation with computer-based games. Some study shows it had no benefit. And really it came down to, is if you're doing these computer-based games or using these apps, it helps with the short-term boost, because what they don't know yet is if you are learning the game, which is important. I mean, it's beneficial because you're learning, even though you're learning the game, but this is where that continuous challenge comes in, because, well, I've learned the game now, maybe then my I'm at a level off, but I want to continuously challenge myself. So I need to get to the next level so I can learn more. Because they were sure, well, you're not getting the benefits because you just learned the game. But if you continue to learn and continue to up the new game, I think that's where the benefit of the cognitive fitness comes in. So another example of adapting games. So there's also so many games you can go buy at the store. There's categories, there's apples to apples, there's trivia games. There is, I mean, a whole back wall, like a mile long of games that you can buy and do just for brain fitness and to stay social, right? But categories has been around for a long time. And just as an example, you don't have to go buy it if you don't want to. You can just do what categories is you get a letter from the alphabet. So you roll a dice and it leads you with the letter of the alphabet. Let's say it comes up with an R. And then it gives you this list of things. So you have to think of an item in a backpack that starts with an R, and a boy's name that starts with an R, frozen food that starts with an R, hairstyles that starts with an R, types of candy, apps, farm animals, college majors, countries, and states that start with an R. So I will ask you all, and you can just chat it in, give me a frozen food that starts with an R. Frozen rice, ravioli, nice. I would not have thought about that. Raspberries, yeah. Rice, yeah. What about a college major that starts with an R? Robotics, religion, reflexology, radiology. Good job. And a hairstyle that starts with an R. Retro. I was like, no, can't think of any. A razor cut, yeah, razor cut. That starts with an R. Some of them are hard. A rat tail, red hair, Rastaman's rope braids. Yeah, okay. See, and I love this, and I love doing it in groups of people because people are going to think of some great things that I would have never thought about. So it's fun just to get the different ideas that come out there, right? And then, so we'll do one last game, and then we have some time for questions. But I'll ask you as fill in the blank. So a bed of roses, yes. A drop in the hat, a drop in the bucket. What about when pigs fly? Yes. And a knee-jerk reaction. What about a leopard cannot change its spots? Yes. And then all that glitters is not gold. Y'all are good. And a backseat driver. So you can put my husband's name in there too. So better late than never. Yes. And then the last one, Bonnie and Clyde. Yes. So these are all great games. They're fun games that really help with cognitive fitness because y'all had to think of those, all of those things. We really challenged you today. So it is for all of the diet, the exercise, the managing your stress, maintaining quality sleep, your staying socially connected, and staying socially fit, cognitively fit. We want to strive for progress in all of these areas, not perfection. And we do want to work out all of these areas and reward ourselves along the way. It's changing one thing, one small thing, and then continuing to add changes as we go along. We're not asking you to make dramatic changes today. It's just one thing. What one thing can I do differently today? And then next week, what can I add to that? And next week, what can I add to that? So it's working your way up. and rewarding yourself along the way. And know that life will catch you off guard. It will knock you off your tracks, and know that this is to be expected because that's life. So let's set goals and be flexible. And as soon or when we get off track, how are we going to get back on track? And find things that work for you. This is with your cognitive fitness, it's with staying socially connected, it's with the food you eat, the physical exercise that you do, your sleep hygiene, your managing your stress, so relaxation techniques that you do. It's finding the stuff that works for you. And if you continue to have, or if you have problems or something comes up, please talk to a trusted doctor, because we can do everything right, and then we still might see changes or things do come up. So it's knowing what the warning signs are of dementia, and then really being proactive about that, talking to a doctor, whether it's dementia related symptoms that you might see or changes that you might see, but really anything. It's being proactive and talking to that trusted doctor about it, but incorporating these positive lifestyle choices. And this is our information. So the James L. West Center, we are here to serve persons impacted by dementia in a variety of ways. And you're all welcome to join us. That's our building. We're here in Fort Worth, Texas. If you're ever in town, please come by and say hi and come visit us. And our information on our CEU, obtaining CEUs. So Marty will send out a follow-up email tomorrow. If you want CEU credit, 1.5 credits for nursing social work licensed counselors, the SurveyMonkey link in the email must be filled out. You must complete that evaluation for us to process your CE credits. But we also ask you to fill it out whether you want a CE credit or not, because we value your information.
Well, you're saying that, I'm going to put it in the chat here real quick, hopefully. Oh, come on, I just had it. Sorry. But yes, and we also ask that you will complete the Google evaluation survey. That will pop up as you close out of Zoom today. And when you do that, it should just give you a chance to say, would you like to take a short survey? And that would take you to our Google evaluation survey. Very notable differences is, I just put in the chat the SurveyMonkey survey. But there's two notable differences. The Google survey is our survey for the North Central Texas Area Agency on Aging, Marty Mascari. That's our survey to help me report back on the goals and objectives I set forth when I applied for the funding to put these webinars together. The SurveyMonkey is for the James L. West Center in Fort Worth, and they are hosting the not only the presenters today, but they're hosting the CEUs for licensed nurses, social workers, and LPCs today. So please make sure you complete that, not only to help them, but you also must complete that. That is a CEU requirement, not only for the James L. West Center, but most CEU entities require that we collect information from you post a post webinar evaluation from you in order for you to qualify to even get CEUs. So if you'd please make sure you do both of them, that would be wonderful. If you'll go to the next one, and I'll talk about our next two events. Sexuality and aging, we're going to be doing again with the James L. West Center in Fort Worth. We're going to be doing that online here on Tuesday, September 10th from 2 to 3:30. So please join us for that and help us get the word out about that. More importantly, the next one, when I say more importantly, it's we need help reaching people that are Spanish speaking or bilingual who would like to see some of these webinars in Spanish. We need help getting this information out to them. So if you would help us, that would be great. there will be a link to the flyer for both the English webinar next month, and the Spanish webinar is actually in October, but it is on Virtual Dementia Live. And so if you'd help us get the information out on both of those, that would be wonderful. Jamie, did you? I had been doing something else, and so I didn't catch if there was any questions. And I see that there's 5, but I haven't looked at them yet.
Yeah. You mean you haven't been riveted by my information this whole time?
I've been riveted by what you're doing.
I'm just kidding.
But
So I am. A couple of questions. Somebody asked if does solitaire on the phone help? You can play solitaire on the phone, yes, but that's just one small thing in a variety of puzzles you should be doing. So please know that, yeah, solitaire is great, especially if it's challenging for you. You know, they have like spider solitaire and all these other ones. So do one that's really challenging for you, but it's just one cognitive fitness in a variety of exercises you should be doing. And then they were asked for me to show this slide again so they could take a picture of it for that. And of course, depending on what time of the year, I might say it pertains to winter or fall or autumn. It can be anything. Make it up. The sky's the limit. And then does a plant-based diet truly help with brain health? And it truly does. A lot of the studies are showing that more plant-based focused diets, doesn't have to be all plant-based, but they're plant-based focused diets that are natural, are low in inflammation, but they're heart healthy and they're brain healthy as well. And I say natural plant-based because just like you know, all foods, a lot of these plant-based foods can also be highly processed. And I eat a lot of plant-based foods, and I eat a lot of the kind of pre-made ones as well. So it's just looking at the sodium intake and the sugar intake on those, just like with anything else, because they're processed. So being aware of that. So if we can do more home cooked meals or natural things, it really is helpful on brain health. And again, I encourage you to go to the YouTube channel that Marty has set up that has more information about that in the part 1 that we did. And then somebody else asked.
I will include when I send out the follow-up email tomorrow. I will not only include the slides from this presentation, but I will also include the slides and the webinar recordings, because I believe I have both of them up already for both our part 1 and part 2. So I will include the slides and the link to the video for those. And then if you're registered for today's, when I get the video processed and uploaded for today's, then you'll receive that one as well.
Yeah. Thank you, Marty.
And is there a link? I love the video you showed, the YouTube video. Was that link embedded in the slides? Or if not, could you send me the link to that so I can, because I think that was just a really, really valuable piece of information. And I would really like to include that so people are able to access that. That would be great.
Yes, I will send the link because I think it was embedded.
That would be great.
Yeah.
That would be wonderful.
Yeah.
You guys.
And then somebody did ask about a list of books to purchase for brain power. And I don't have a list of books. And I mean, if you Google books for enhancing your brain health, I'm sure there would be a million that pop up. So I encourage you to do that, right? And then just kind of read the reviews. And there is a lot of information out there. If you can get it from a trusted source, or you know the author or where it came from, like the National Institute of Minds or something like that, those are the ones that I would go with. But
or better yet, if you do a search, I'm sure you can find a book club that works on something like that. That would be that would not only work on your brain exercise, but also your social interaction with other people, because there's so many of those on Zoom now, or on the platforms, that I think you can kind of benefit in more than one way by.
Yeah.
Well, very good. Is there anything else that I missed? I still haven't got to the Q&A that were the solitaire on the phone. Oh, you already got that. Okay, very good. I think you've got them all.
I think so.
Very, Jamie, very good. Thank you so,
Thank
so much. We sure appreciate it. And y'all, thank you so much for joining us. We certainly appreciate you joining us today. Look for the follow-up email tomorrow. Once again, if you scroll back up in the slides, you'll find the I'm sorry, the SurveyMonkey link in case you're anxious to get that done. And then the Zoom would give you the opportunity to go take our survey, which is the Google survey. Remember that the SurveyMonkey survey is required if you want any type of certificate. That's a requirement. Thank you so much, and I'll have a wonderful day.
Thank y'all. Bye.
Take care. Bye bye.